Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Monday, February 24th, 2020. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many search for truth rules already given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And those rules include focusing on what matters most in every moment. And now the microphone is being picked up by one of those angels and godly presences who might or might not be accepting responsibility for planet Earth.
Yeah,
right now,
right.
Planet Earth is kind of being kicked like a hot potato, an undesirable planet.
That's true.
No groups of angels or godly presences want to accept responsibility for it, and we can really understand that given the predominant life form. Humans are offensively oppositional, defiant to divinity. So we do understand that position.
Oh, yeah.
However, the search for truth rules require that we stay focused on what matters most in every moment to the best of our abilities. And this presence, angel or godly presence, is saying until we go back to the soul plan, it's really hard to tell what that might be, that thing that matters most. And for these two host lives, these two host lives are part of a large-scale experiment that includes 1 million or so souls who are supposed to be acting as portals for higher vibration presences, divine presences, true divine presences, to come in and effect a divine miracle to pull this disaster out of the ditch.
Yeah, that's right.
So for these two host lives, obviously one of the things that matters most in every moment is to be a portal for higher vibration presences. And right now we have this question, right now being in this era of time, we have this question of how to reopen portals to higher vibration presences when it's possible that somehow Earth has fallen inside of a black hole.
That's right.
And an inquiry that seems to work well right now in this era is to ask what has worked in other black holes to reopen portals to higher vibrations. What has worked in other black holes to reopen portals to higher vibrations?
I can see somebody in a higher dimension room coming from the future, so moving through space and time.
They're in one of the time tunnels.
Exactly. And they're talking about something that's been coming up in our research about black holes. And they're talking about the life cycles of black holes and how what commonly happens is the black hole sucks the mass down, 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 down into a central point, and the mass accumulates there and grows in force and grows in power and grows in tension, and then there is an explosion, a supernova, and they're talking about levels of backup.
Mm-hmm.
And how levels of backup to the divine plane create a certain amount of density.
Mm-hmm. I hear all that. I see that presence, and they're kind of like white-coated, scientific, clean look, and clipboard, and organized and calm, and kind of theoretical, approaching the problem from a theoretical, abstract perspective. And they're kind of saying it'll take some time, and then it'll explode again. And we understand that. And now, what about the suffering of the little people, so to speak, during the time that
when
it's
all that force
becoming
is
more dense?
Exactly.
And is it meeting the standards that apply to divinity to allow bullies to run roughshod over gentler societies? What about toads? They're not stupid. You can watch them. They're thinking, and they've got their opinions, and they hold their opinions very strongly, and they're gentle and harmless. And why are they being oppressed? How is that correct? How is that acceptable? And that's just one example. What about the sloths? Even the faster, more aggressive three-toed sloth.
That's true.
Which is
a joke.
It's a biologist's joke.
Exactly.
Because they're still super slow and super gentle.
Exactly.
And they're faster and more aggressive than the
other
two-toed sloth.
Exactly.
For him is the message. And how is this acceptable? Is this acceptable? What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portals to higher vibrations? What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portals to higher vibrations? I see that future tunnel again.
Yes,
Maybe
I
they're
do.
saying you're going to have to work through the time tunnels again. Okay, we were told to stop that. We had been working with the time tunnels, and some bad things started happening, like
That's right.
astral thugs from this era started rolling through the time tunnels going into the future, and the people from the future shut off the portals and said,
right.
"That's it, you're on your own," and kind of booted the door shut.
That's right.
So we said, all right, well, we won't do that anymore. You guys know about that? No, they didn't know about that.
And they definitely didn't feel like they were prepared for the talk about smaller presences.
Mm.
It feels like they wanted to pretend that nobody gets hurt.
Well, if people are getting hurt super bad of many species, the suffering is deep and real and widespread and horrifying, and all you have to do is look for it, and it's there. If you don't want to see it, then you don't look for it. Then you maybe just see Disney World and Walmart.
Exactly.
But the suffering is real. What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portals to higher vibrations? All I see is these future tunnels.
Yeah.
Do you guys know that right now host lives don't have legal standing under divine law here in Ground Zero Planet Earth, this time zone, however you guys are labeling it?
Good point.
The time of the collapse and condensation. And host lives don't have legal standing under divine law, and yet host lives are charged with the responsibility of protecting the soul.
That's true.
We were told in no uncertain terms, it's unclear who's speaking, but it's a soul who's been working here for some period of time.
And has access to records.
Has access to the records, has been working from the logs,
Yeah.
and saying, we were told in no uncertain terms, it is the body's job to protect the soul.
That's
It
true.
is the body's job to protect the soul. It is the body's job to protect the soul. And we said, okay.
Okay.
But is that a job for children? Or is it a job for adults? And if it's a job for adults, where's the legal standing? And if it's an adult who's got the job to protect the soul and they don't have legal standing, what are we talking about? Are we talking about slavery? And is that a divine
Attitude?
way
Or
to
system?
divine attitude or system? What now to reopen the portal to higher vibrations? What has worked in other black holes? Well, now they're shutting the time tunnel.
Yeah, it feels like we're making
Mhm.
it too difficult to them.
I understand. These are the realities. What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portal to higher vibrations? It's that same feeling of draconian measures.
Yeah, that came up when we asked what has worked on other planets, maybe with this level of astral lawlessness, to stop the destruction in a fair and just way. That was the answer also.
Draconian measures. What now? What now to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? What has worked in other black holes to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? Somebody, one of those voices of angels and godly presences, higher powers, who is not accepting responsibility for planet Earth, but possibly has the soul plan to accept responsibility
Right.
for planet Earth. That presence is asking what has worked in other black holes to stop the destruction in a fair and just way. What has worked in other black holes to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? And now that same angel or godly presence voice is saying, can we all see that there hasn't really been an argument that this is a black hole? That seems to now have been accepted.
Yeah. There hasn't been an argument that proves that we're not in a black hole.
I think what that presence means is today, right now, in this filming, while we're asking these questions, nobody is saying, that's irrelevant, that's not a black hole. They're all answering the questions as if they are relevant.
Yeah, that's right.
Which would imply that Earth has somehow fallen into a black hole.
That's true.
Which would explain why it looks to us, from our observational perspective, why it looks to us that the universe is expanding. If we're falling into a black hole, everything else is kind of pulling away from us, and it might look like an expanding universe. What now? What now to stop the destruction in a fair and just way, given the reality that we may have fallen into a black hole? They want to pretend that out of sight means, it's kind of like out of sight is out of mind.
Yeah, that's the feeling upstairs.
It's like, well, you're in there, we can't see it, we don't have to pay any attention to it.
Exactly.
Who's got the soul plan for planet Earth? Can we please see? Who's got the soul plan to be the angels and godly presences for planet Earth? Can we see, please? Show of hands. I do see some hands.
I see hands.
What has worked in other black holes to stop the destruction in a fair and just way?
You know what this feeling might be?
What?
It feels kind of like those presences are pretending that you just have to, like, quote, let things run their course. And it sounds like people who deny climate change, kind of, when they say that climate changes all the time and you have to let it run its course. Like, we aren't responsible for the things that happen.
Does this meet standards for divinity? It's a real question.
That's a good question.
We want to know. Does that meet standards for divinity? I kind of see like a white flash and everything goes away.
Exactly.
Now it's peaceful at least.
It's quiet. What would a white flash like that mean?
What it means in the movies is that the person just died.
That's exactly what it means in the movies.
Well, who just died? What has worked in other black holes to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portal to higher vibrations? Ooh, we know that sometimes when a loved one transitions, it's a way of forming an interdimensional connection that can keep a portal open.
That's true. For the people still in the bodies and the presence who's left to link to each other.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portals to higher vibrations?
You know what I also know?
No.
Normally when we see people try that, to take one out of the body to make the link, it normally doesn't work.
Well, normally nothing works. That's why
true.
it needs 100,000 levels of backup. Maybe 1 in 100,000 it works.
Maybe.
I don't know. Sometimes it works. We do know that sometimes it works. We're not advocating that. That's not what we're saying, but we do know that sometimes it works. What has worked in other black holes to reopen the portals to higher vibrations? What has worked in other black holes to engage a divine miracle to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? That could be it. What has worked in other black holes to engage a divine miracle to stop the destruction in a fair and just way? I hear whistling wind and I feel like doors open in corridors and grumpy people kind of saying, close the window.
Yeah, that's right.
Does this meet standards for divinity?